This is Gemara Nedarim Daf Yomi. Gimel. The learning for this week has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf as a schos ili neshama for Moshe ben Rav Chaim Alevi Bernstein and Mirz Hashem. The learning of the entire Chabura as we conclude the first parak of Nedarim should bring Rav Moshe Rav Chaim Alevi to higher place than Ganin Shalmaila. His yahrzeit will be tomorrow on Yud Dalet Cheshvan and B'siyata Deshmaya, which also will coincide with Daf Yud Dalet of Nedarim, should bring an incredible Milat Yarsher for his entire Mishpacha. We're holding on Yud Beis and Yud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom, in which the Gemara suggests Lema Kitanoi. And in case one has forgotten what is the topic at hand, the Ran over here comes along and reminds us that what's the lima ketanoi ilif nezrikas damim. Do we conclude the question of Rabbi Bar Chama? Does it go that when someone is matfis, that this item should be like the shlamim? Is it considered before the zrikas damim or not? So says the Gemara, we weren't able to resolve this question. Says the Gemara, lima ketanoi. Perhaps we could say this is a machlokas tanoim. It says the Gemara, harei alai kibechar. What is the din if someone says this meat should be like me, like a bechar? We know the halacha of the bechar is that from the creation, not creation, you don't create a bechar, but the halacha of the bechar is that originally from birth the item is forbidden until you do this rika, until it comes to the possession of the kayin. So Rav Yaakov Oyser, Rav Yaakov says if you make entity A like a bechar, it's forbidden. Whereas Rav Yehuda Matir, Rav Yehuda says it is allowed. So says the Gemara, Heichi Dami. What is this case when someone says this item should be like a bechar? What is the halacha? Excuse me, what is the case? It says the Gemara, if he says explicitly that it should be like a bechar before you sprinkle the blood, everyone agrees before you do the zrika on a bechar that the item is forbidden. It's a animal with kedusha, so why would anyone say it's mut? And if you already did the zrika, then my time demand aser. So what is the opinion that holds it's forbidden? Once you do the zrika, the halacha is you're allowed to eat the bechar. So why would this be considered a good net? So ask the Gemara, whichever way you cut the pie, we have a problem. El alav, so says the Gemara, you know what the case is? We turn over to Yud Gimel Amid Aleph. El alav explains the Gemara, the case over here is De'machis Bisar Habachar. That we have a case similar to the case that we were discussing until now, that the Bachar, they already did the Zrika. They already did a Zrika on the Bechar, the Machis Bechar, but the Bechar is lying in front of the person, Bisar Bechar. Umachis Bisar Deheich Kabei. So you have 2 pieces of beef in front of you. You have one animal, which is a Bechar with Kedusha. We have another animal, that's an animal, a piece of meat. Va'amar Zeh Kozeh. So what is the halacha in such a scenario? And what do we see? We see it's a machlokes tanoim. So going back to our original question, the question of Rabbi Bar Chama, that when we try to say that this piece of meat is like this besar shlamim, it should be the same machlokes in Rav Yaakov and Rav Yehuda that we just saw. Answers the Gemara loy. The Kuli Amal Nezikas Dam explains the Gemara. Everyone agrees that we're talking about a case that the Bechar, they did not do the Zrika yet. If you didn't do the Zrika yet, or my time of demand is shari, then seemingly everyone should hold that it's forbidden. Amar Kra, you know what the opinion that holds its mutter is because it says in the Torah, Ki Yidor. Someone vows to make a neder. Ad she Yidor b'davar hanoider. A very important line. Until you make a neder with an entity that is forbidden due to a neder. And this was an idea that I've really been touching upon in the past few daf. Now we say it explicitly that a neder is only chal. You only have a neder if you said A is like B and B is forbidden due to neder. What does that come to exclude? Lafuke bechar the davar asaru. This other piece of meat, which is a bechar, it's true, it's forbidden. But when you say that this steak should be like this bechar, you're not saying that it should be like an entity that was asur due to a neder. Why not? Because a bechar is something that is inherently kadosh, inherently forbidden, and not merely because of a neder that you made. So says the Gemara, you cannot suggest that the Sheila of Rami Bar Chama is indeed this machlokes Tanaim between Rav Yaakov and Rav Yehuda. Now explains the Gemara, Manda Asar, according to Rav Yaakov, who says that in this case forbidden, what's the reason? Amar Kra La Hashem. In the parsha of Nedarim, what does the pasuk say? Ishkidar neder La Hashem. Le Rabbi Istavar Aser. Rav Yaakov holds that there's an extra word in the pasuk, which includes not only if you're matfis, you did a tfasa, you said this piece of meat is like this entity which is aser due to a neder, even if it's something that is inherently aser. Oman de shari. So what does Rav Yehuda hold? Lashem, again, back into the classical Gemara game of ping pong. What does he do with the word Lashem? It's coming to teach me that it will work if you made it like a chatos or an asham, will still have a power of a neder. Umar Rayis, the classical Shaila Rabbis chatos asham lo tziyas a bachar. On one hand, we're excluding bachar. We're including chatos v'asham. How do you know how to do that? How do you know which to include and which to exclude? Explains the Gemara, Mar ba'ani chatos v'asham. You know why? Shumatvis bin neder. The reason why chatas and asham is yes included, because the chatas and asham was created, their initial creation was via neder. Whereas umaytani abachar shu kadash me'ima, as we explained, a bachar is an entity that is born that way. It is not created by man. It has nothing to do with making it a bachar. So ask the Gemara, so nice, but man the asa bachar nami b'madvis b'nederhu. So one that says it's forbidden, says the Gemara, bachar nami matvisa b'nederhu. He holds that bachar is a neder. How do I know? Deitanya mishum Rabbi Omer. And this, of course, this is the dichotomy that we're trying to figure out. That on one hand, you have this bachar, which is kadosh me'ima, it's born with kedusha. But on the other hand, there's a mitzvah to practically be makdish it. So which part is more important? Shenemar hazachar takdish. Oman deshari kilo hakdish laslei mi loy makdish. And the other mandamra holds you're right. But let's say you didn't do it. What is the halacha? The halacha is that automatically you will receive the kedusha on its own. It's a mitzvah. You have a positive commandment to come along and make it kadosh. But if you do not, it will indeed happen on its own. We're smack in the middle of your Gimel and Aleph. By the two dots, says the Gemara, Ke'imra Kedirim, quoting the end of the Mishnah. So instead it should be like an imra, like a lamb, Kedirim, like the enclosure, the logs, the fires, like Lego, like Yerushalayim. What's the halacha? It is a din of a good neder. Tani, we learned in the Mishnah. Imra, li-imra, ke-imra, adirim, ladirim, kedirim, eitzim, la-eitzim, ka-eitzim, ishin, la-ishin, ki-ishin, mizbeach, la-mizbeach, ke-mizbeach, eichel, 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 yushalayim, yushalayim. In any of these entities, which is the whole litany in the Mishnah, just add it on, whether you said the word itself, whether you add on the lamid or the chaf, mizbeach, la mizbeach, ki mizbeach. In all of these cases, kulan, in all of them, sha'icha lecha, aser. If any of these cases he says, ki Yerushalayim, and then he adds on, sha'icha lecha, that which I eat from you, then it is forbidden if he said any of the languages that we just said, dirim, ladirim, kadirim, eitzim, leitzim, keitzim, etc. Then it's going to be mutter. If he says, I shall not eat of yours, a lamb, I shall not eat of yours, then it's indeed mutter. So man shamin leid lo shani leib in imra leimra keimra. Who is this opinion? Who is the Tana that holds that there is indeed no difference between all the cases? Says the Gemara, it's Reb Meiri. Ema seifa, but ask the Gemara, likul lecha mutter. V'atinan la'akar v'lo lecha Reb Meir aser. Yeah, excuse me, that's the answer. So ask the Gemara, how can you tell me that it is Reb Meir? It doesn't fit. Answers the Gemara of Amar Rav Abba, Nasik Omer la Karban Yehei, Lefikach lo yeichlach. Excuse me, that was part of the Kasha. That was explaining the reason when he said La Karban, the reason why it's going to work is because we view the word La Karban as if he said Lo Yoichal Lecha, Ke'omer La Karban Yehei, Lefikach Lo Yoichal Lecha. So we have Stir Rameir, Lo Kasha Hada Amar Lo Le'imra, Hada Amar Le'imra. That's going to be the difference whether you said Lo Le'imra or whether you just said Le'imra to the lamb. We continue with the next Mishnah on the bottom of Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Says the Mishnah, Ha'omer karban oila mincha chatos toido shlamim. If someone says any of these words, any of these type of karbanos, and he adds on sha'ani oicha lecha, of that which I will eat of you, should be a karban oila mincha chatos, etc. is forbidden. Rav Yehuda Matir. Rav Yehuda argues, ha'karban ki karban sha'ich lecha aser, la karban lo yoich lecha then. Rameir Oyser. So says the Gemara, Katani Karban HaKarban Ki Karban Sha'ich Lecha Asa. The Mishnah taught us that if you said any of these words in conjunction with that which I will eat of you, then it's forbidden. So Tamatani Rameir. So says the Gemara, this fits with the opinion of Rameir that holds what? That there's no difference between whether they said La Imra or they said Imra. Either way, it's going to be forbidden. But I asked the Gemara, it can't be because you're a mayor. They Katani HaKarban Sheich Lecha Aser. V'atani Madi Chacham the Rav Yehuda Baimer HaKarban V'ayla Mincha Chad Sheich Lecha Shemoter. So says the Gemara, we have a contradiction. Shalom Dezel V'Chaye Karban, because that's considered that you made the neder in the life of the Karban. So who is the Tana of the Mishnah? If the Mishnah is going with Rameir, then he says, Karban is going to be Aser. What do you do with this Braisa? So says the Gemara, as we turn over to Yud Gimel Amid Beis, says the Gemara, you know what's going on over here? Loi Kasha. It's not a Kasha at all. Why is it not a Kasha? Explains the Gemara, Hada Amar. The reason being is Hada Amar HaKarban V'Hada Amar HaKarban. Interesting. One is where you said it as two words. There's one is where you said it as one word. My taima. What is the reason? Explains the Gemara. Chaye Karban Ka'amar. When someone says HaKarban, then it's as if he says by the life of the Karban. If you look at the top Rashi explains Kalaimar the Chiyamar. Ha-karban, ha-lahave, karban, kamar. Ha-karban is one word. It's as if he said that this entity, hai, should be like a carbon. Katani. Katani, la carbon. So says the Gemara, you know what the Mishnah said? La carbon, la yichal rameir oiser. As we learned extensively in the previous dafim, that how can this be Rameir? Rameir does not agree to this principle that from the negative you can infer the positive. No, it says if it's said explicitly and therefore it's nothing to do with Mechalavat Shemei and even Rameir could agree to that din. And we continue in the Gemara, the final Mishnah of this past parak. If someone says to his friend, Koinam pi midaber imach, I koinam a neder to my mouth from talking to you. Yodai oisi imach, from my hands doing work with you. Raglai malachas imach, if he said any of these three lishonos, sir, it is a good neder. So says the Gemara, Veramini asked the Gemara, Kasha, Chaimer b'Shavuos bin Nedarim b'Shvuos. We have a maila, a chumrah of Shavuos over Nedarim and Nedarim over Shavuos. And now the Brisa explains, Chaimer ben Nedarim shan Nedarim v'chalan al mitzvah kivershas. A Nedarim is stringent because Nedarim can be chal even on mitzvahs. Masha'im b'Shvuos, which is not. Chaimer b'Shvuos, but a Shvuos is more chamer. Why? Shashvuos chal is al davar sheyesh by mamish v'shein by mamish. A Shvuah is chal on whether the item has a tangibility or not. Masha'in came in Nedarim. So as the Gemara from this Mishnah, we're seeing that you're able to make a neder seemingly on something without tangibility. The pi medaber, the yodayim la'asois. So how does that fit with the Brisa? Agbayim yesar pi l'dibor yedayim l'maiseyim. Ragli la'alechem. So says the Gemara, no. You know what the case is? The case is the katani that you said my hands should be forbidden from doing work. That's not the entity of the hands. It's the work that they're doing. If it would have said she'ani ledaber, that would have been one thing. But the fact that it says from my mouth that's talking to you, and there comes the confetti. If the fact says my mouth that's talking to you, then it's going to be different. Says the Gemara, Hadron aloch kol kinuyei. We should do an incredible chazara, a quick 13 daf parak, a quick Mirza Hashem. We should indeed do a chazara as we begin the second parak, and perhaps most notably because a lot of connected ideas in the two parakim. So says the new Mishnah, Ve'elu mutar. In the flip side, we learned in Mishnah number 1, everything that is aser, all the neder, the kinuyim, the yadais that work. Now says the Mishnah, Ve'elu mutar. In the following entities are not a neder. Chulin shaykh l'chav. Someone says, Chulin, that which I eat of yours. Kibasa chazar, like pork, like pig, which is a type of service of a dessert. They rip out the heart of the animal. And any of these cases, what's the halacha? Mutter. If someone says to his wife, then what's the halacha? So you shouldn't act lightheadedness to this manner. And of course, from the end of the Mishnah comes clear that which the Reisha is teaching us. From the end of the Mishnah that's teaching us that in these cases, what do you need to do? You need to find the Pesach, you need to be matir the neder. That shows us that in the first part of the Mishnah, you don't even need to do that. We'll pick it up in the Gemara in the next year.